I'm Kirsten Hunter. I'm an API evangelist at Akamai. So what I do is I travel around and I teach our developers how to use our APIs, but I also get to go to conferences and do cool things with APIs. I've written a book called Irresistible APIs, and that is not to say that Akamai's APIs are necessarily irresistible, but it's about the process of creating APIs that developers are actually going to want to use. So one of the things I do in my life is I mash things up. I mash up other people's APIs to do fun things. And this is a talk about one of those things that I have done. There will be live coding. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get to that part. So you guys can see stuff happening in real life. And this will actually change color based on syncing my Fitbit, assuming that it's in the mood. So why quantify? So one of the things that I found in the world is that when you do something that you want to do, for instance, working out or eating foods that you like, and you achieve those things and you pat yourself on the back, it doesn't give you the same sort of satisfaction as having something else tell you that you've done a good job. And what I've determined is that even if you tell another thing to tell you when you do a good job, you still feel totally gratified that your system has told you, hey, you did a great job. So external motivators are much more effective than internal motivators, and we are much less likely to make an excuse to our devices as to why it is we didn't get the thing done that we meant to get done. So the technology stack I'm using here, MyFitnessPal, I don't know if you guys have used MyFitnessPal, is actually a fairly decent thing for inputting your food and exercises. I have my Fitbit, I have the Blaze. There's 8,000 kinds of Fitbits, but the Blaze is what I have. I use Twilio to send myself SMS messages throughout the day. I used to use If This Then That and Twitter as glue because the Philips Hue API, the remote API, doesn't work, but I had to get rid of that, and I'll tell you why. So the Fitbit motivators that they do give you some external motivators, but what they tell you is you've reached 75%, and then a little later, you've reached 100%. This is not super helpful to me. What I want to know is it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you have not moved all day long. You've been sitting in front of your computer and you haven't done a darn thing. Get up, move. So what I did was I actually have it so that every hour it figures out what 8.5% is between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. and it determines whether I'm actually making progress throughout the day. So I don't get to 5 o'clock and find out I've only taken 200 steps. So MyFitnessPal does a much better job of allowing you to input foods and activities. It's crowdsourced. So if you do Zumba, for instance, you can actually look it up and someone else will have put Zumba in there for you. The Fitbit inputs for things are not that great. The Fitbit API is, however, fantastic. Chicken korma is one of my favorite examples. I eat foods that are not in the standard foods that Fitbit has, and so if you eat a food that's not in the standard food that Fitbit has, you have to input the nutritional information for it. This is tedious and awful, and if someone else puts chicken korma in, you still have to add it yourself. There's no sharing of those pieces of information. Fitness activities are also the same. It's gotten a little bit better, but historically Fitbit said that there were 2 kinds of dance. There were slow ballroom dance and African tribal dance. I do neither of those things, but I do dance. And I would like to have the opportunity to express the kind of dancing I'm doing without having to input the fitness information myself. So the Fitbit input is not great. I've covered a little bit of why. The Fitbit API is fantastic. They have a great developer API. They actually keep track of a lot of information that the Fitbit doesn't keep track of. Obviously, they do weight. They have a scale. But they also will keep track of blood pressure and glucose and other kinds of fitness health information, making it a great grand central station for your health information. You can pull in information from all kinds of different systems. They have good integrations with existing systems like MyFitnessPal, which is nice, because MyFitnessPal has a beta API that I have requested access to no fewer than 17 times, and 17 times I have gotten no response from them. So I'm going to have to say it's a super closed API, and I can't use it, but it does integrate with Fitbit, and so I can take advantage of that. One of the other things is if you're trying to graph health data, there is another great health graph, which is Runkeeper, but I've worked with APIs a lot, and sometimes they go away, and I'm much less concerned that the Fitbit API is going to go away than I am about the Runkeeper API. I don't want to spend the time to integrate with the system and have it run away. So Fitbit allows you to subscribe to the system. It does have pub sub updates so that when I sync my Fitbit, it will tell my light to go on, probably. And I'll get a SMS message. They do all the different kinds of content types. They have a really good integration model, so you can actually use it as a great place to keep your fitness data. So here's kind of the way to set up a developer account to get your fitness set up. It is kind of a little bit of overhead when you're setting up a subscriber system, but they have a really good developer experience. The tutorials are quite nice, and so they walk you through the information. One of the things about having a pub sub model is that you do have to accept posts back by the system. So your system, your node.js, I use a node.js server that lives on Modulus, but you just need to have an internet-capable system that is visible so that Fitbit can post back to it and let you know when something has happened. So this is kind of I'm going to put this up in the world so that you guys can see it. Putting code on slides is never that exciting. But this is kind of an idea of what you're going to do. You're going to subscribe to the endpoint. You're going to handle the callback. There's actually a little dance you do to make sure that it actually came from Fitbit so that random people don't come and tell you that things have happened that didn't actually happen. And then you get some information back that tells you that the post has happened. So let's talk about SMS. Why do I use SMS? Why don't I use posts or push notifications on my phone? So I'm going to do a little audience interaction here. How many of you have push notifications currently on your phone that you have not attended to? Oh, come on. Yeah. All right. How many of you have SMSs that you have not attended to? Wow, more. Okay, but notice that when you get an SMS, it actually is in your face, right? You can't ignore it. I get little notifications, push notifications on my phone, and I just ignore them. But SMSs come in, and it tells me something that I need to do. Twilio has a fantastic API. If you have never used the Twilio API, there are a few different systems that do what they do, and what they do is a great example of what APIs can do for you. What they can do for you is make impossible things, well, hard things easy. But in Twilio's case, they make something that is nigh impossible easy, and that is telephony. Interacting with the telephone systems requires that you actually talk to the telephone system people and get them to accept your information and allow you to use the lines that they use. They're not really interested in helping you with that, and so it is almost impossible by yourself to send an SMS or start a phone call. So Twilio makes this pretty easy. The Philips Hue. So the Philips Hue, I use it for external praise. So basically I have my stick, you know, the carrot and the stick, right? So I have the stick, which is the SMS. It says, hey, move, also log your foods. And then I have the Philips Hue light bulb, and during the day it starts at red, which as it turns out, red is a great color for your eyes in the morning. Red, and then it goes to orange, and then yellow, and then green throughout the day to kind of give me an idea of how I'm doing throughout the day and give me a feeling of progress. However, there is no remote API. Well, there's no remote API, right? You have an iPhone, and you have if, this, then that, so clearly there's an API, and I'll talk to you about how I did that. So the Hue Local API they have a decent REST API, and I'll show you kind of how that works so you can get an idea. It's not super secure. If other people can sniff your traffic, then they could change the color of your lights. There's not a lot of terribly awful things people can do by hacking your lights, but it could be annoying. It's pretty cool for local services. There are a few things that I would do differently in my world of irresistible APIs. So if you're going to turn a light on, you send to a particular light the state on is true. That's cool. It's put, so you're updating an object. This is nice. If you want to turn all your lights on, so you put to the group's action. Notice that we're doing exactly the same thing here. On is true, but we have a status for a light and we have an action for groups, which is not exactly how I would have designed it, but it's still not too bad. And you can set the colors any way you want. It's pretty complicated. So what I tend to do is I go to meetq.com and I pick a color that I like, and then I ask the light, hey, what color are you? And then I use that light color for the feedback that I give myself. So on the local API, you can get the color. It sends you back the information. I'll show you that in just a second. But I wanted to do this in the cloud. I didn't want to actually have a system running at my house to tell my lights what to do. I wanted something to just run and make it go magically whenever my lights are plugged in. So here's what I did. I said, I'm an iPhone. And Philips Hue said, okay. And I said, I right-clicked on it and I grabbed the token. And then I create the JSON post body. And then I put it, you have to post it, always post, whether it's get or put or post or delete. You have to post it. And then you get a 200. If you send valid JSON, you get a 200. It matters not if it is actually something useful to your lights or meaningful. You could send foo equals bar, and it would say 200. So it's not the best API, but it does work. So in order to turn a light off, now remember that we were just putting light off. Now we have to send, and this is the anti-pattern that I love more than anything. Take a JSON string, first take JSON, turn it into a string, then URI encode it, and then send it as the value of a post parameter. There's nothing that's not awesome about this experience. This is what it looks like. And remember, and also, I have to point something out that's really cute here. We have clip message at the top, right? Which is all lowercase. Clip command is not all lowercase. So even within this awesome post body, you have to deal with this particular thing. So it's not wonderful. And you get a 200 okay, because it's good. Promise. So this is the end of the slide part, and I have some time to show you the cool stuff. So MyFitnessPal has a nice UI, no API to speak of. Fitbit has a great API, not so good for inputs to speak of. Twilio gives me SMS that's really easy. Twitter plus if this then that. So I'll just tell you what I was doing. I don't know if you guys have used the Twitter system, but you can kind of use it as glue. So you can send messages to Twitter and then you can search for them on if this and that. And then every 5 minutes it'll sort of create automatic stuff that happens. Unfortunately, with Twitter, you can't just send the same string multiple times because you're sending a duplicate message and they don't like bots. And it's a bot, basically. But you can work around that by sending a timestamp with your string. And so that's what I did, which worked okay. Until if this then that decided that my Philips Hue light bulbs were no longer okay with them. Just because the cookie got weird. And so I decided that I would hack the API myself, and then it would be my fault if it didn't work, instead of somebody else's fault. Oh yeah, my book, irresistibleapis.com. If you're developing APIs, take a look. All right, so let's look at a terminal. I'm going to cheat a little bit because it's live coding. Have you guys used HTTPy before? Who's used HTTPy? Oh, come on, you guys are all API users. You should totally use HTTPy. It's like curl, except it's designed for APIs and it's not designed for web pages. Curl is great if you already know curl. It's like find on Unix. It's great if you already know how to use find. But HTTPy, let's start with something easy. Git. There's got to be a get. There we go. All right, so when you're talking to your local light, you're going to get a user string. There's a little dance that you do to get it. It's not very complicated. It's also not very interesting, so I'm not going to make you guys look at it. With HTTP, you can send JSON by using : equals. So notice that I'm sending a JSON string, status is on, to groups action. And of course, I'm going to get an error because I'm doing this live. All right, let's try this again. Oh, right. On is true. All right. Oh, come on. I like that it told me that I actually did it and it didn't actually work. Let's try it again. No. All right. It's just not going to work today. All right, let's try it again. This is the first time it's ever not worked for me. All right, let me do some live debugging here. Oh, I know what the problem is. Just a moment. Oh no. Let's try it on false. Nope, I don't know what the problem is. Maybe it just can't see it. All right. Well, we're going to have to pretend like it's working. This is, like I said, I've given this talk like 8 times, and it's never not worked. But now I am at the Internet of Things conference, and so let's try it again. Nope. All right, well, let's see if it's going to work from the Internet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sync my Fitbit. And I tell you, at the Hoxton shortage where I was earlier today, it was turning red for me because I'm not doing anything of particular interest. My internet is not working the way I want. Oh, look at that. Orange. All right. Thanks. So let's take a look at the logs from my modulus thing. I guess it just doesn't want to talk to my local system. That's fine. So I'm using Modulus because they have a Node.js server. It actually uses HTTPS, which is fantastic. So if I want to integrate it with my Alexa and I want to accept posts that come in HTTPS, it will work. So let's go ahead and take a look at the logs so that you can see what's happening. The code itself, I would show you, but in VGA, you will only be able to see 4 letters at a time. So it's on GitHub. Sinedra is my username, and it's under Fitbit Pluralsight or FitFood Pluralsight, and you can see the code and see what it's doing. But let's take a look at the logs. Sorry, my hands are sweaty, so my scrolling's not working. So I get the credentials. It does something with the credentials at the top. So this is the information I'm getting back, posted back to me by Fitbit to tell me that stuff is working. All right, so I get the information. I'm doing a call to the foods and the activities, and it comes back. And so I'm getting all this information back from Fitbit to tell me how I'm doing through the day. Now note, I'm actually counting calories and not counting steps, because sometimes I do things like swim or bike, and those don't count as steps. I think 10,000 steps is lovely, but there's a certain number of calories I want to burn every day. And the protein, I actually want to eat 80 grams of protein a day. It works out well for me. I tend to eat less crap, although we can do an example here. So you can see I'm checking the percentage, And then this is the clip message that I'm posting. This is what I did to get orange. So that's basically telling me to do orange. So if I go to my FitnessPal, and I add a food, my favorite thing to do for demos is to add bacon. Notice that I add bacon a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna have 8 slices of bacon. I didn't actually eat 8 slices of bacon this morning, but you know, it's all good. So we should get a different color from that. Although orange is pretty good. Let's add some more. Let's add some milk. I think it's hilarious that it doesn't want to listen to the local API, but it wants to listen to the. We'll have 4 glasses of milk too. I am aware, by the way, that 4 glasses of chocolate milk and 8 strips of bacon is not a healthy thing. This is a demo, but what we're trying to do is get protein going. So I've gotten 56 grams of protein, and that's still not good enough. But let's see what we got. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna actually just hack it. Let's see what we get if I sync the Fitbit. I suspect that we're still going to be orange because that's the way the world works. But have you guys looked at Visual Studio Code, by the way? If you haven't, I'm not a Microsoft person, but it's actually really awesome. See, it works really well for Python. It also works really well for Node. It works well for pretty much everything. I have 4 more minutes. All right, so we're going to turn everything into green. So with Modulus, it's very similar to Heroku, if you're familiar with that. So you just you have a GitHub repository, and you can play with it, and then you can just publish it to Modulus, and magic will happen. It'll happen slowly because we're watching it, and you're waiting for, oh, see, hey, we got a better color. That's yellow. So it did finally sync that second time. So there is a delay. The delay is partly because my Fitbit takes a little while to sync when I'm not on a network that it really loves. It also takes a little while. The remote API, I don't know if you have Fitbit or if you have Philips Hue light bulbs, you've probably noticed that when you do something on your iPhone, it takes a little while for it to react. That's because the remote API basically goes into a queue, and then it processes it pretty quickly. When it's actually listening to the local API, it's immediate because you get the status back. It tells you exactly what happened. Life is good. But with the remote API, it takes a little bit longer. All right, so now we've hacked it live. And I'm telling you, I could go through all that code if you want, but we only have 2 more minutes. So we'll just let it sync. Sync. And it should turn green momentarily. And I am getting SMS messages, but I would just have to hold it up, and you'd have to believe me that it actually worked. Okay, so does anybody have any questions while we're waiting for the, hey, look, green. So that's just because I hacked it and told it everything is green. The code, like I said, is on GitHub. Synedra is my username, SYNEDRA. It's the same as my Twitter handle. Please feel free to play with it, take a look at it, and see how to interact with the different APIs. I have some other stuff there. I have a polyglot repository that tells you how to write a basic API server in 5 different languages, because I've determined that people are scared of other languages. But so I got a lot of stuff there in my repository that's there to play with. And please send tweets to me on Twitter. Ask questions about what I have. I love talking to people about this stuff.
Good. So thank you very much.